Hi there, I'm still working on the Revox amplifier because I noticed that the Phono input doesn't work. So I started measuring the voltages here on the capacitors and I discovered that the voltage G here, which should be minus 24 volts, was only minus 9 volts. And because the circuit is pretty simple, you have a rectifier, a capacitors, and then the tube heaters, that's those little curves there. Well, I found out the rectifier must be bad, so it's time to replace that. I first thought this is only a holder for the rectifier, but it turned out this is the backplate of the rectifier, so I broke everything off. And now I have to drill this rivet out to remove the rest of it. So I removed the rectifier here. And when I removed it, well, I did it wrong. I thought this is just a holder for the rectifier, but this is actually part of the rectifier. Looks about like that when it's together. So it fell apart, and the interesting part is it's all loose stuff here. So at the very back we have this insulator here as violet plastic. Then inside the case we have a spring that presses everything together, and we have of course the connectors or the pins that stick out of the case, like so, and the others like so. But the most interesting thing is we have individual diodes here. These 4 plates here are the diodes. They have a dark side and a bright side, so I figured out the dark side is the positive and the bright side is the negative. And in case you don't believe me, we can measure that. So I have my component tester connected to my oscilloscope in XY mode. And when I measure this, we get a diode curve. And here for comparison there is a modern diode, and you can see it switches much faster and clearer, so the upward part of this curve here is much steeper, so it's a better diode. Well, anyway, whatever the reason is, bad contacts or maybe the whole diodes have become bad, I will take a new rectifier. This one is totally overkill. It's about I think 400 volts and 2 amps. We only need 30 volts and yeah, a couple of milliamps, but it already has a mounting hole and it fits perfectly into the space here. And as usual, I only have 2 sizes of screws, 2 short and 2 long, so I took the 2 long one, and yeah, doesn't look too pretty, but I don't have a better one, so let's stick with that. Okay, moment of truth. Let's turn it on. No smoke so far. Let's measure the voltage here on the capacitor. Let me see, negative here, positive here. And we have 27 volts. Okay, 26, 27. Great. We should have 24, but well, 25. But I think that's okay. It's much better than 9 volts. Yes, they are glowing nicely right now. Here and here. That's something they didn't do before. And they also get hot now, because they stayed very cool before, and for the tube that's not good. So if the heater doesn't work properly, the whole tube doesn't work. Let's try how it sounds with the record player. Okay, next day I had to take a break because this is really a problem here, a riddle. The phono input doesn't work properly. Yesterday I fixed the rectifier, so the heater voltage for the phono tubes is okay, for the phono preamp tubes, but I'm still having a very weak signal, and now it turned out that something is wired wrong in this amplifier. So these two thick gray wires here come from the phono inputs. They go directly to the phono switch, and if you look closely you can see the contact plate that moves here, and that connects this input to the gray wire here, and to that gray wire, and to the line that goes down here. And the small gray wire here goes directly to the output, so that's the line output for tape or whatever you want to connect. And it also goes directly to the volume pot here. And I checked that with the multimeter, with the continuity test, and we have 0 ohms when the phono is pressed from the phono input to the input of the amplifier. So we are bypassing the phono preamp completely. That's the back side of the first tube, the first phono amplifier tube. There is the gap. Then we have this pin, it is not connected, that's the middle pin of the heater that is not used. Then we have the cathode, and that's the grid that's grid number 1. So we have 2 triodes here in this tube, one for the left channel, one for the right channel. So one input should be here, and you can see that probably someone soldered here, because we have these dark stains here. That's from the flux. The original solder pads here are pretty clean. Well, not all of them, they sometimes also have a little bit of flux, but we should have a wire that goes here. Something is wrong here. Okay, I'm a little bit puzzled, because the phono inputs here should go directly to the grid of that tube, but instead they go to the switch. And even worse, the red and the green wire here, that's the output from the second tube, so the line level output from the phono preamp. That should go to the switch and be connected to the outputs and then continue to the power amplifier. But for some reason, someone connected the output of the amplifier to ground. So this is ground. There's the red wire. And there's the green wire. It's always grounded. So no wonder the phono output doesn't work, or the phono input, because the input is directly connected to the line input. So and the phono cartridge doesn't have enough voltage or enough signal to drive a line input. And the output of the phono preamp is grounded permanently. So someone mixed up these cables. And by the way, I think these cable ties here, they are not from 1963. I don't think they had this type of cables. And also the thicker cables here are probably newer, because Revox used that kind of cable, so that thickness here, all over the place, except for the phono. So I first thought, well, phono is a little bit more sensitive to noise, so they used better cables, but I guess someone installed them wrong. So let's see if I can change that back to original. Well, the funny part is I don't really need that phono input, because I want to use that amplifier in my workshop and I don't have a record player there. But it always bothers me if something isn't right. So if there is a phono preamp, it has to work. That's what it is made for. By the way, I'm using the great tube handbook. That's a reprint from a maybe 1950, 1960 book. And that's the tube we use, the ECC83. And the inputs we need, that's the gap here. We need 1, 2, 3, that is grid 1. And we need 1, 2, that is grid 2. So these two grids have to be connected to these wires here. So I will first cut away the ground, because the wire is already grounded on the input side. So we don't necessarily need to connect that too. In fact, it's probably worse to connect it, because you could create a ground wire loop that picks up all kinds of noise. And by the way, all the other wires here in this amplifier are connected in the same way. So I think there's nothing wrong about that. I just have to make sure that this ground wire here doesn't touch anything, so I will use a heat shrink tube for that. Okay, turn it on. Don't take it apart. Switch to Phono. And there is a lot of hum. And it's super sensitive, so yeah, that's probably a good sign at the moment. Alright, I'm back from the living room. It hums like crazy, but I know why. There is a little mistake, but that can be fixed easy. You see the ground tabs here. They are not connected to the chassis. So I thought the connectors here, the hinge connectors are connected to the ground, but they are not, so we don't have any ground at all, and that's of course a problem. Okay, give me a second, I will do that. Okay, it seems that grounding has actually done the trick. So here is my setup. I connected my speakers and my gramophone. And yes, I used banana plugs, banana cables here. All the audio files will now spin in circles, but I don't really care. I'm using my Revox turntable, it's the model B790. And to hopefully confuse the YouTube algorithm to prevent a copyright strike, I will turn it to variable speed and turn it down as much as possible, because I noticed at least Shazam will not recognize a song when it's played too slow. So excuse the slow pitch, but yeah.